July 2, 1944, the skies over Normandy erupted in chaos as 12 Supermarine Spitfires from 403 Squadron RCAF climbed through thick clouds east of Caen. Flight Lieutenant James Douglas Lindsay was leading high cover when his radio crackled with an urgent warning. Bandits, 12 o'clock high, 15 plus Messerschmitts incoming. What happened next defied every law of aerial combat. In exactly 60 seconds of pure violence, Lindsay's 8 Browning machine guns and twin 20mm cannons would destroy 3 German fighters. But this was just the beginning of a day that would see him become one of the most lethal pilots in Canadian history. This is the story of the man who proved that sometimes 1 minute of perfect flying can change the course of a war, the Supermarine Spitfire. Mark IX was the pinnacle of British fighter design in 1944. Powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin 66 engine producing 1,620 horsepower, it could reach 408 mm at 25,000 feet and climb to 20,000 feet in just over 6 minutes. Armed with 2 20mm Hispano cannons carrying 120 rounds each and 4.303 Browning machine guns with 350 rounds per gun, it carried enough firepower to destroy any aircraft in the sky. The Spitfire's elliptical wings weren't just beautiful, they were deadly. The wing design provided exceptional lift characteristics and allowed for tight turning radius that could outmaneuver any German fighter. The aircraft's stressed skin aluminum construction made it both light and incredibly strong, capable of withstanding the crushing G-forces of high-speed combat maneuvers. But the real weapon wasn't the machine. It was the man flying it. James Douglas Lindsay was born in Arnprior, Ontario, in September 1922, to a family that had served Canada for generations. His father had fought in the trenches of World War I, and young James grew up hearing stories of aerial combat and the brave pilots who fought in the skies over France. When Germany invaded Poland in September 1939, Lindsay was just 17 years old and working as a lumberjack in the Ottawa Valley. But the images of Nazi bombers destroying Warsaw and the Wehrmacht's blitzkrieg across Europe convinced him that he had to fight. On February 15, 1941, 2 days after his 18th birthday, he walked into the RCAF recruitment office in Ottawa and volunteered to become a fighter pilot. The Royal Canadian Air Force was desperate for pilots, but their training standards were uncompromising. Lindsay began elementary flying training at Windsor Mills, Quebec, where he learned the basics of flight on Fleet Finch biplanes. His instructors quickly recognized his natural flying ability and exceptional hand-eye coordination. From there, he progressed to St. Hubert's Senior Flying School, where he flew more advanced aircraft and learned combat tactics. Lindsay graduated second in his class and earned his wings on November 21, 1941. He was commissioned as a pilot officer and assigned to advanced operational training. The journey to England was treacherous. Lindsay sailed aboard the SS Bayano in March 1943, part of a convoy that faced constant threat from German U-boats prowling the North Atlantic. 2 ships in their convoy were torpedoed during the crossing, but the Bayano arrived safely at Liverpool on March 6, 1943. Lindsay was posted to 61 Operational Training Unit at RAF Rednall, where he flew his first Spitfire. The moment he climbed into the cockpit of the legendary fighter, he knew he had found his calling. The Spitfire was unlike any aircraft he had ever flown, responsive, powerful, and deadly in the right hands. After completing operational training, Lindsay was posted to 403 Squadron, the Wolf Squadron, on October 7, 1943. The squadron had been formed at RAF Baginton on March 1, 1941, as the first RCAF squadron created overseas. Their badge featured a wolf's head with the motto, "Stalk and Strike," words that would define Lindsay's approach to aerial combat. By July 1944, 403 Squadron was stationed at Bazenville Airfield in Normandy, just weeks after the D-Day landings. The squadron had already distinguished itself during the Battle of Britain, where Canadian pilots fought alongside their RAF counterparts to defend England from the Luftwaffe's devastating bombing campaigns. Lindsay had proven himself as one of Canada's most skilled fighter pilots during his first months with 403 Squadron. His first confirmed victory came on May 7, 1944, when he shot down a Messerschmitt Bf109 during a patrol over the French coast. On the same day, he damaged a Focke-Wulf 190, demonstrating his ability to engage multiple targets in a single sortie. His reputation grew with each mission. On June 19th, he destroyed another FW-190, and on June 26th, he claimed yet another German fighter. His aggressive tactics and deadly accuracy had earned him promotion to flight commander and the respect of every pilot in the squadron. Wing Commander Johnny Johnson, the RAF's top ace, called Lindsay one of the finest deflection shots I've ever seen. But nothing had prepared him for what would happen on July 2, 1944. The mission began at 0530 hours from Bazenville Airfield in Normandy. The dawn air was crisp and clear, perfect flying weather for what promised to be another day of intense combat over the Norman countryside. 12 Spitfire Mark 9Bs of 403 Squadron were assigned a frontline patrol east of Caen, where German and Allied forces were locked in brutal combat for control of the strategic crossroads. Lindsay was leading Blue Flight on high cover, with 3 other Spitfires following his lead. His aircraft, coded KHD, was a battle-tested machine that had already survived dozens of combat sorties. The ground crew had worked through the night to ensure every system was perfect, the Merlin engine tuned to perfection, the cannons and machine guns cleaned and loaded with fresh ammunition. As the formation climbed through a solid layer of clouds at 15,000 feet, Lindsay's wingman, Flying Officer Steve Butte, spotted the first group of enemy aircraft on the squadron's radio frequency. "Bandits, 2 o'clock low, 20-plus Messerschmitts diving on our lower flights." 20 Messerschmitt Bf109s were diving toward the lower Spitfire formations in a classic German bounce attack, attempting to break up the Canadian patrol before the fighters could respond effectively. The Bf109s had the advantage of height and speed, and their pilots were veterans of the Eastern Front who had been transferred to France to counter the Allied invasion. The first engagement erupted below Lindsay's flight as the squadron's lower formations engaged the diving German fighters, the sky filled with tracers and cannon fire as Spitfires and Messerschmitts twisted and turned in deadly aerial ballet. Radio chatter exploded across the airwaves as pilots called out targets, warned of threats, and coordinated their attacks. Within minutes, the lower flights had achieved stunning success. 9 Bf109s were destroyed and 3 damaged without the loss of a single Canadian aircraft. Pilot Officer Mac Reeves claimed 2 victories. Flying Officer Steve Butte destroyed 2 and damaged another, and Flight Sergeant Keith Lindsay added 1 more to his score. It was a devastating blow to the Luftwaffe, but Lindsay hadn't fired a shot yet. His flight had maintained high cover throughout the engagement, watching for additional threats while the battle raged below. That patience was about to pay off in the most spectacular way possible. As Lindsay's flight climbed through the clouds toward 18,000 feet, his sharp eyes caught a glint of sunlight reflecting off metal high above. 15 more Bf109s had appeared out of the sun, diving at high speed toward the engaged Spitfires below. This was the classic German tactic: send in a first wave to draw the defenders into combat, then hit them with a second wave when their ammunition was low and their aircraft scattered. But Lindsay had positioned Blue Flight perfectly for this exact scenario. "Bandits diving through. Blue Flight, follow me." Lindsay's voice cut through the radio chatter as he rolled his Spitfire into a steep diving turn, his 3 wingmen following in tight formation. The German fighters were committed to their attack run and couldn't change direction without losing speed and altitude. Lindsay had them exactly where he wanted them. The mathematics of aerial combat flashed through Lindsay's mind as he closed the distance to the lead Bf109. Deflection angle, target speed, ammunition ballistics, G-force effects on accuracy, all calculated instantly by a pilot whose natural ability had been honed by hundreds of hours of combat flying. The first Bf109 never saw him coming. Lindsay opened fire at 300 yards with a perfectly calculated deflection shot, leading the target by exactly the right amount to account for the Messerschmitt's speed and direction. His 20mm cannon shells tore through the German fighter's engine, cowling and cockpit, hydraulic fluid and coolant streaming behind the stricken aircraft. The Bf109 rolled over and dove toward the Norman countryside, trailing black smoke and flames. Its pilot made no attempt to bail out. Lindsay's first burst had been lethal. Time elapsed, 15 seconds. The second German pilot, seeing his leader destroyed, tried to break left in a desperate attempt to escape the attacking Spitfire, but Lindsay had anticipated the move and was already pulling his aircraft into a crushing 7G turn that would have blacked out most pilots. Lindsay's exceptional physical conditioning and years of combat experience kept him conscious and accurate, even under the extreme forces. His vision tunneled, and his body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, but his hands remained steady on the controls and his finger found the trigger. His second burst caught the Bf109 as it completed its turn, 20mm cannon shells striking the wing root and fuel tank. The fighter exploded in a brilliant orange fireball that scattered burning debris across the sky. Pieces of the destroyed Messerschmitt tumbled toward the earth like falling stars. Time elapsed, 35 seconds. The third kill was the most extraordinary display of piloting skill anyone in blue flight had ever witnessed. The remaining German pilot, seeing his two comrades destroyed in quick succession, pulled his aircraft into a desperate vertical climb, trying to use his remaining speed and the Bf109's excellent climb rate to escape. It was a fatal mistake against someone of Lindsay's exceptional caliber. Lindsay hauled back on his stick and followed the Bf109 straight up, his more powerful Merlin 66 engine giving him a crucial advantage over the German fighter's Daimler-Benz power plant. Both aircraft climbed at maximum power, their engines screaming as they fought against gravity and each other. At the top of the climb, as both aircraft hung momentarily in the air with their speed bleeding away, Lindsay fired one final burst from point-blank range. There was nowhere for the German pilot to go, no escape from the deadly accurate fire of the Canadian ace. The Bf109 stalled and fell like a stone, its pilot either dead or unconscious from Lindsay's cannon shells. The fighter spun earthward in a flat spin, completely out of control, before smashing into a Norman field in a spectacular explosion. Time elapsed, exactly 60 seconds. In 1 minute of combat, Flight Lieutenant Lindsay had destroyed 3 enemy aircraft and saved the lives of countless Allied pilots and ground forces. His wingmen later testified that they had never seen such precise and devastating marksmanship in aerial combat. Flying Officer Butte called it the most incredible display of gunnery I've ever witnessed. But Lindsay's extraordinary day wasn't over yet. The combined action on July 2nd became known as the Triple Victory, one of the most successful single-day operations in RCAF history. The squadron's combined score of 12 German aircraft destroyed and 3 damaged represented a catastrophic loss for the Luftwaffe, which was already struggling with severe pilot shortages and critical fuel rationing. For his actions that day, Lindsay was immediately awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The citation read, "Flight Lieutenant Lindsay displayed exceptional courage, skill, and determination in aerial combat. His leadership and marksmanship were instrumental in achieving one of the most decisive victories in the squadron's operational history. His ability to destroy 3 enemy aircraft in 60 seconds represents the finest traditions of the Royal Canadian Air Force." The strategic impact of the July 2nd action extended far beyond the immediate tactical victory. Every German fighter destroyed meant 1 less aircraft available to attack Allied bombers, strafe Allied ground forces, or intercept reconnaissance aircraft gathering intelligence on German positions. Lindsay's combat career continued through the end of the war with undiminished skill and courage. On August 2, 1944, he claimed another Bf109, bringing his confirmed total to 7 destroyed aircraft. His tour with 403 Squadron ended in late 1944, but he returned to the unit in April 1945 for the final push into Germany. On April 17, 1945, during the closing weeks of the war, Lindsay probably destroyed a Focke-Wulf 190 during a ground attack mission, though the victory was never officially confirmed due to the chaotic conditions of the German collapse. When Nazi Germany finally surrendered on May 8, 1945, Lindsay had flown over 200 operational hours and completed 165 combat sorties. He had faced the best pilots the Luftwaffe could produce, veterans of the Battle of Britain, the Eastern Front, and the defense of the Reich, and emerged victorious every time. After the war, Lindsay returned to Canada as one of the nation's most decorated fighter pilots. He had proven that Canadian airmen could match and exceed the skill of any air force in the world, contributing to the Allied victory that liberated Europe from Nazi tyranny and saved millions of lives. The story of Lindsay's 60-second triple kill became legend throughout the Royal Canadian Air Force and beyond. It represented everything that made the Spitfire and its pilots so formidable: superior training, aggressive tactics, exceptional marksmanship, and the courage to press home an attack against overwhelming odds. Military aviation experts still study Lindsay's combat techniques as an example of how individual excellence can influence the outcome of major battles. His ability to position his aircraft perfectly, calculate complex deflection angles under extreme G-forces, and maintain deadly accuracy while maneuvering at high speed represented the absolute pinnacle of World War II fighter pilot skill. The Supermarine Spitfire had once again proven itself as the most effective fighter aircraft of the war. Its combination of speed, agility, firepower, and structural strength in the hands of a pilot like Lindsay was virtually unbeatable in aerial combat against any opponent the enemy could field. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Lindsay's achievement was how it demonstrated the critical importance of split-second decisions in warfare. In those 60 seconds over Normandy, he eliminated 3 enemy aircraft that might have gone on to shoot down Allied fighters, bomb Allied positions, or strafe Allied troops advancing through the Norman hedgerows. 1 minute of perfect flying had saved dozens of lives and brought the war one step closer to its inevitable end. Flight Lieutenant James Douglas Lindsay had proven that in the hands of a true master, the Spitfire wasn't just an aircraft. It was an instrument of liberation, flown by men who refused to accept defeat and fought with a skill that bordered on the supernatural. His 60-second masterpiece over the skies of Normandy remains one of the most extraordinary individual achievements in the entire history of aerial combat, a testament to Canadian courage and the deadly effectiveness of the world's most famous fighter aircraft.